In this presentation by Hannah Parrish, Darlene Fortney, and Tony Gary, we discuss some of the main facts and information of Australia, and I, Tony Gary, will be narrating the PowerPoint. First, we discuss the general history of Australia. The first early inhabitants of Australia date back to about 50,000 years ago, with many migrating from Africa. Many of these aborigines resided in the area of Lake Mungo, which is now a sacred and respected ancestral territory. This area was lush with vegetation and fish to harvest, but as climates and environmental elements changed, the lake began to dry up and inhabitants had to abandon the area. Many years later, Captain Arthur Phillips, as seen in the picture provided, and his fleet of 11 British ships carried convicted felons to the colony of New South Wales on January 26, 1788. One very interesting fact is that Australia's intended purpose by the British government was to be a penal farm for felons. Unfortunately, after the arrival of the Second Fleet, many convicts and crew members did not survive due to the harsh traveling conditions. Next, we discuss some of the basic facts of the climate of Australia. Australia has 6 climate zones, which include equatorial, tropical, subtropical, desert, grassland, and temperate, as seen in the picture provided. The climate zones translate into 2 main seasonal patterns, consisting of a summer from December to February, an autumn from March to May, a winter from June to August, and a spring from September to November pattern. Accustomed to the desert, grassland, and temperate areas, and a wet-dry pattern that lasts roughly 6 months each. The wet season during November to March, and the dry season during April to October, accustomed to the equatorial, tropical, and subtropical areas. The next slide will consist of the basic facts of the population and languages of Australia. The largest cities ranked largest to smallest by population are Sydney at 4.6 million, Melbourne at 4.2 million, Brisbane at 2.2 million, Perth at 1.9 million, and Adelaide at 1.3 million. There is currently no official language of Australia, but English is the most common spoken language in the Australian households, and the Australian dialect differs from the other English that is spoken throughout the world that includes differences in grammar, spelling, and accent. Other common languages spoken in the household are Mandarin, Italian, Arabic, Cantonese, various indigenous languages, and even sign language. We now move on to the basic facts of the government of Australia. Australia is classified as a sovereign, independent, and federal nation declared by the Australian Act and claimed independence from the United Kingdom on January 1, 1901. The Australian government consists of a parliamentary democracy and a Commonwealth realm. There are 3 main branches of the government, including the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judiciary branch. Firstly, the executive branch consists of the monarch, or king or queen, which is an inherited position, the governor general, which is appointed by the queen, the prime minister, which is sworn in by the governor general, and the deputy prime minister, which is appointed by the governor general. The governor general holds a lot of power. Next, the legislative branch consists of the Senate President and the Speaker of House of Representatives, both of which are elected positions. Finally, the judiciary branch consists of the High Court's Chief Justice, which is appointed by the Governor General, and the lower courts. In light of the government-related facts, we now focus our attention on the transportation of Australia. People travel in Australia by different forms of transportation, and they include cars, taxis, trolleys, trains, ships, and even by air. They mainly use cars because it is too expensive to use the other forms of transportation. It is noteworthy to say that Australia is among the highest ranking in the world for number of automobiles. Here we have a modern form of a train or railway in Australia. Transportation also includes travel by sea or boat. The picture in this slide is of an Australian seaport where they transport goods to and from other areas surrounding Australia's borders. As you can see, this is a large seaport that can handle over 70 million tons of trade and includes coal, iron ore, and 99% of raw materials exported. We now turn our attention to the media of Australia. Australia has only 2 national newspapers for national news, 10 state or territorial daily newspapers, 35 regional dailies, and 470 regional or suburban newspapers. Their only media broadcastings are through television, newspapers, radios, and websites. Next, we contemplate the Australian diet. The Australian palate originates all the way back to the founding of the nation. In the colonial years, food and drink were born out of a necessity, which required a great deal of creativity and originality in the cooking process. In 1788, the First Fleet introduced the country to many new food resources. These included rum, beer, grapevines for wine, coffee beans, and ginger. By World War II, even more migrants entered the country with a Renaissance creativity towards the discovery and experimentation of food preparation of other cultures. As we enter more modern years, the Australian Bureau of Statistics states that households are spending about 1/3 of the family income on eating outside of the home. Though there has been a dramatic change in where and how people obtain their food, farming is still a key business in the states and territories of Australia. In fact, there are roughly 135,000 farms found around the nation. With all this talk about the Australian diet, we finally look at some of the nation's most common foods. Vegemite was originated as the after-product of brewing beer, but is now a black-colored spread used commonly on sandwiches and crackers. Anzac biscuits are sweet and made from flour, sugar, desiccated coconuts, rolled oats, butter, golden syrup, boiling water, and baking soda. Australian meat pie is so popular that it has been deemed the country's national dish. The pie usually contains mincemeat and gravy, along with onions, mushrooms, and cheese. Lamington is a cube-shaped sponge cake that is dipped into chocolate and then is covered by coconut. They are traditionally eaten with strawberry jam or cream in between the halves. Damper is an Australian sweetbread made without yeast and with the main ingredients being flour, water, and sometimes milk. Traditionally, it is eaten with meat, but now it is usually cooked with fruits and nuts. And lastly, pavlova is a meringue shell topped with whipped cream and fruit. It was named after the Russian ballerina Anna Pavlova. We hope that our research has adequately examined all of the wonderful intricacies that the beautiful nation of Australia has to offer. Each of us has learned so much from this project and hope that you have as well. On behalf of Darlene, Hannah, and myself, we thank you for your time and attention. The following slides are the references we used in this presentation.